I feel like being a bully or being bullied is a pretty common experience for a lot of Black people. Like, I feel like a lot of people who I've talked to have experienced it or dealt it to some capacity. And maybe that's true for every race of people. I wouldn't know because I didn't growing up all Black community. So I didn't really even know white people until I got to Peru.
Yeah. I lay on the scale, you gotta glow, you gotta glow. She had my attention, she gotta know.
I'd like to welcome everyone to another episode of the Let's Get podcast. I'm your host Zeke, and in this episode, I have my friends Darius and Quinn Jones to speak about being Black in the United States. I'd like to give a content warning for any strong language used in this episode, and hope you have a nice day and enjoy the show.
I'd like to welcome you guys for coming on the podcast.
Hello.
Thank you for having us.
All right, cool. So the first question I always like to ask is, what would your origin story be, and how would you like to represent it? Anyone can go first.
Man, seems like a bit of a tough one, but I guess my origin story is that well, I guess when I was born in, it's weird. I want to say I was born and raised in Harlem, but that's kind of not completely the truth. I was born in Harlem, 1993, but I only lived there till I was 5. Then we moved into the shelter, me and my family. And for a couple years, we were bounced around the shelters. We lived basically in a new apartment every year. So early on, it wasn't very easy to make friends, especially at school, because you kind of knew you had a different class, a different set of people who you had to introduce yourself to every year. First, second, third, and fourth grade, completely different class from the last. I've lived basic every year. It was like a new borough too. From first grade, it was Manhattan. No, you know what? I'm sorry. Yeah, it was Manhattan, and then we lived in the Bronx. And well, I guess we came back to Manhattan, so never mind. But I felt like it was always hard to make friends. I feel like I've tried hard to be friends, to make friends, to get everyone to like me. And I feel like that kind of plays a role into my personality, how I am now. I'm someone who's like super friendly, super trusting. I try to see, I guess, the positive side of things, the good in everyone. And it has bitten me in the butt a couple times. Trusting the wrong people or having your faith in the wrong thing. But childhood wasn't as easy. It's something that I've been thinking about lately. My childhood, I've kind of always analyzed it to the worst of everything. Like, I feel like we weren't the most well off when we were young, but I've always felt there was always someone worse, or we couldn't really hang out. I've always had to announce where I was going, when I was going, what time I was going to be home. If it was too late, then it was a big fat no. And I always had to call before I come home and when I'm coming home. And then I always chalked it up to, people got it worse. I've known friends who just can't hang out at all. But I will always say that we did go through a difficult, I went through not the easiest childhood, but I think that just plays more into the whole see the best outlook mentality that I tend to have, or I try to show when I talk to or communicate with people.
You know, what's interesting about that is like people always ask like how is one person like so different from another, even though you're brothers or your sisters. Um and the truth is that it's because like people see stuff from different perspectives, and you don't get to experience everything that a brother or sister might experience.
Mm-hmm.
So, like for example, Darius talks about the struggles that we had as children, but from perspective as like a 4-year old, um, it's very different from like Darius or like my older brother's perception of the time because I'm a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and pretty much, I feel like my origin, like since I was a kid, like I had a lot of people supporting me. Like I had both my grandmothers, I had my pops, I had my mother, which is a lot because like growing up, most of the people who I knew didn't know their father. So like even in middle school, like one of my friends told me they was spending a weekend with their father, and I was just like, "What? Father?" I was
Those exist.
yeah. So it's like there's in the community, like to have that support of having my father around, and constantly telling me, I could do whatever I want or anything that I put my mind to, I can do. And then also having my mother in my corner, who also told me all the time, you got to go to college, you got to do this, you got to make sure that you always have yourself set. So I felt like when I was growing up, the path was already paved for me because I have 3 older brothers. So like everything that they did, I'm taking little bits of everything that they do. Like it's like, okay, let me, go to college, make sure that I got all my financial aid in order, make sure that I'm doing everything that I got to do. And truth be told, when I talk about support system, Darius was also a big support system for me when I was in college because like those financial aid checks, like when you 19, that 2000 hit like something different. But the one thing that I will say is like when you have like a significant other or something, you spend more money because you want to go out, you want to do things, as opposed to when you like single and you just chilling playing 2K or something all day. So my money was going mad fast, like by the end of the semester, I mean, I'm talking dollar pizza. Zeke. I'm talking dollar pizza at the end of the semester. And so, Darius will always be like, I would be like, yo, I need like $300, and he'd be like, all right, I
Mm-hmm.
give it to you. So, having all those support systems, I think that's what allowed me to be like as successful as I am with things that I've tried to do. Like, I feel like there's nothing in my life right now that I've tried to do that I feel like that I failed at. And I think part of that is just having a well-rounded support system. So I would say that that's like my origin is like just having a support system and using that support system to the best of my abilities. And just trying to do me at the end of the day.
Powerful.
Thank you, bro.
And before we continue with that, how would you like to represent it, each of you guys? Would you guys make a story, write a book, write a movie, write a video game?
Like you said, how would we represent ourselves?
Yeah, like what kind of medium would you choose?
I would choose a book definitely because I feel like a movie wouldn't be able to encapsulate everything that went on. I feel like there's a lot of defining moments. I feel like there's a lot of defining moments in your not just your childhood, but in your life that happens. And I feel like a movie, like a 2 hour movie, wouldn't be able to encapsulate everything that kind of molds you into the person you are. That's probably why I feel like you actually don't see a lot of movies made about like people's memoirs and such. Only like the really, really popular people you'll see for like a movies being made. because I feel like there's just a lot of things that I've gone through that I wouldn't be able to describe in a movie. Like going through school, I was bullied basically almost my entire school life. I mean, not in my entire school life, but probably like 75% of my school life. Between years,
Even in high school?
yeah,
Even in high school as well?
The first year of high school. So half of elementary school, 4th and 5th grade, when we went to school in Harlem. Middle school, entirely middle school, and the first year of high school. But that's kind of because, truth be told, probably one of the main causers of me getting bullied by other kids, I would say the leaders, quote unquote. One of them went to my middle school, and then the other went to like my high school for my freshman year, and then I transferred schools again, and then finally, second high school, I know only one person from like my previous schools, and he wasn't really messing with me. So, because in 4th and 5th, I had some prime bullies, and then some of them went to my middle school, and then one of them went to my high school. And then not only do I would like to go into details about the bullying. I would like to go into the details of like the effect that it had on me. I would say there is a long time where I did not like the color of my skin, and I will be honest about that. My grandmother would have to console me, why am I so dark? Why am I so black? Why do all the other kids call me African booty scratcher? Like I'm darker than them. And my grandmother would have to tell me, oh, black is beautiful, this, that, and the third. And it feel like for a long time I've alienated myself from like my own community because of the pains that I had just being bullied by Black students for being darker than them. I mean, that wasn't the only reason, but it was it wasn't the only reason why the bullying was happening, but it was the one that I focused on the most. And not only that, the anxiety going through schools, changing from year to year. Like I said, just not something that I think we'll be able to encapsulate in just the movie. Like you'll be able to see like maybe a key moment here and a key moment there, but I just feel like there's too much details. So a book is for sure.
What's interesting about that is while you were talking about the bullying, I was thinking about how, and I had this discussion briefly with my students. Of course, not in depth because, my students are only 8th graders. But I was talking about how, and I was also bullied in elementary school, not in middle school or high school or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But, I feel like being a bully or being bullied is a pretty common experience for a lot of Black people. Like, I feel like a lot of people who I've talked to have experienced it or dealt it to some capacity. And maybe that's true for every race of people. I wouldn't know because I didn't, growing up, all Black community. So, I didn't really even know white people until I got to Baruch. When I got to Baruch, it's not like I was talking to many white people because, we was in Zeke. So, that experience is so interesting because I don't feel like Black people sometimes, when we talk about like alienate, like you mentioned to Darius, how like, you get bullied and then sometimes you like to alienate from your own like community, right? Mm-hmm. But what I wanted to ask y'all and you guys, you have to share your opinion on this. Do y'all think, like in other communities, do you think people see bullying and think like for example, do you think that a white person being bullied by another white person would think, oh, I don't want to associate with white people? Or do you think that that's like a black thing?
So me personally, I don't ever hear a white person being bullied for being too white.
That's true.
I just don't think that it's weird. That's usually something that's like, I feel like that's something that's usually it's the whiter you are, the okay, not the whiter you are, because there's a lot of people who who try to tan themselves just to reach this complexion, okay? But I just feel like it's not something that's not demonized. Like, you'll never go, oh my God, you're too white. Or even if they are saying, oh, you're white, you're white as rice. It's not something they like alienate. I feel like it's something that they don't alienate themselves from each other about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I feel like in society, well, we live in America. The majority of people are white. So they are going to, I feel like they are going to have a big influence on, like, light is beautiful. And I just feel like a lot of people, by contrast, is going to say, like, the darker you are, not per se say the darker you are, the least attractive you are, but it's not as desired by, like, the caramel complexion. Because you'll see it in a lot of songs. You'll see, they'll talk about light skinned niggas, dark skinned niggas, this and that. Not even just songs. You'll see throughout history. You'll see by both sides, light skinned Black people were shown a preference.
The interesting thing about my fault, Darius. I didn't mean
to. So I think it's just something that just white people don't really go through. Like, you'll never see like a subset of, like, there's no like whiter skins or white skins versus whiter skins. I just feel like throughout history there has been a focus on light skin, even in past, light skin Black people have gotten more attention from white people than dark skin. So there's a lot of range of emotions there, but it's just something that I feel like I said, white people don't go through because it's not something that's perpetuated in their societies.
The funny thing about that is, I feel like when you talk about like desirability, I feel like in media, a lot of times, like as like Black men are teased for being darker, but I think in terms of like desirability on TV and media, usually it's darker skinned males but lighter skinned women. I mean, do you share that belief? Like, I feel like the desire in the media is to have dark skinned men and light skinned women, and that translates to even what you see in music. What you said, like, even when Lil Wayne said he need a red bone, like a red bone, like a light brown dog, like, So it's just, I feel like a lot of times, like rap is the music that a lot of us hear in our households. It's just music by us. So, of course, a lot of us are going to listen to it. And so, like, a lot of kids carry that into the classroom. Even in my classroom, like, I even see it. Like, some students have come up to me. I remember I was talking with a student last year. He was like, nah, Mr. Jones, Black just like me, same color. He's like, I gotta get me a Spanish mommy. You know, I can't be doing that. Uh, and you know, at the moment I tried to challenge that. I'm like, okay, so why are you specifically going after a Spanish girl? And you know, he couldn't even rationalize in his own mind why. And so I was thinking, like, maybe it's the media influence that's just, you know, driving what we like. And that happens all over. Like, they got ads to make you like stuff. Like, think about like Apple. Apple does this all the time with their products. Yeah, there's a new iPhone 12, and it probably doesn't do anything different from the 11, but it's new. You want it, right? And so the same way how they do advertising, I feel like just the videos that we look at as kids are ingrained in our minds. And so that's where that mentality to bully people based on skin color, I feel like comes from. Just knowing that the standard of beauty is not blackness. The standard of beauty is like whiteness. And, you know, seeing how close you can get to that. That's not like for so long, there hasn't even, you know, now we have a push towards people accepting their own hair.
Exactly. They've actually, I think they just made it illegal to discriminate against Black women's hair just recently. It was like this year, right? It was like this or last year, where it's like now there's like a condemnation of discrimination. Oh, what's considered professional hair?
Exactly. Think about that. Christ died 2,021 years ago, and here we are still asking people to accept our damn hair. That's crazy to me. Like, oh, okay, finally your hair is acceptable in the workplace. Like, come on. It's just ridiculous at this point. To answer your question earlier though, Zeke, I'm sorry for I just strayed off completely. I feel like it would be dope to have like a video game. Like, I feel like you could have like one of those video games where like as I'm growing up, I'm leveling up and I'm getting new skills from other people as I'm going through it. Like, you know, going to school, getting new skills, meeting people, getting new skills. And I feel like that would be a cool way to depict like growing up in like Harlem. Cause you know, even from me and my brother growing up, we literally saw and experienced how fast and how much the neighborhood changed. It was like boom. At one moment it was like, okay, everybody on the block, we have barbecues, you hanging out in your courtyard, you hanging out, you know, everybody on the block. And then like 5 years down the line, boom, you don't know nobody. There's a lot of people who you don't know in the neighborhood. And now they looking at you crazy for being there. So it's like, that would be a dope video game. Like, it'll be like, yo, what happened? Like, the whole setting changes. It's like, welcome to Soha. No longer Harlem. So yeah, I would go with a video game. I think that's pretty dope.
Nice. This conversation went different places. I guess continuing with the topic at hand, I think it's definitely a media thing where if you train people to look at things a certain way, then they're going to be desire and react. And also, like, if you can get the oppressed to oppress themselves and police themselves, then you can easily control them because they can't pretty much unite because they focus on the differences. And I think with like white people, when I say like the media, is that like, mostly a classism thing with bullying, and also like I guess culture because like going for the history class, how like Italians were considered white for a long time, and now they're trying to make Asian students be classify as white when they call out like school stuff.
Yeah. That's the crazy thing about America. It's like America, like over time, has been like the journey of other groups of ethnic groups of people being accepted into whiteness. And Black people exist as like that other people on the spectrum. So
Which
it's like
crazy.
You're working from being like them to, you know, finally being accepted into the whiteness. And so Black people just don't get that opportunity unless you're kind of white passing. Then you have a whole other can of worms that you may be able to deal with.
I honestly think it you mentioned that, like, how the media tries to make you to think one way, society tries to think you to think one way, because Irish people used to be down with Black people. Irish people used to be down with us. Think of like how Little Italy started. Like they were sitting down there because Little Italy used to be the slums. Little Italy used to be the slums. There was a good time where Italians was prejudiced against just as much as we were. Irish people once another set of group of people who was it was deep prejudice against them. The Japanese during World War II, deep, once again, someone who was prejudiced against. And it's just weird how these are groups that has been like, besides the Japanese, who have now, you wouldn't consider them different from white people. Their struggles and their struggles integrating into American society isn't really talked about, because in essence, I feel like it worked. It succeeded. They're definitely like, when people say white people, there's no asterisk for Italians anymore. They used to be that asterisk there in history, but that's not the case anymore. I just feel like you said, we talk about like all these statistics and shit, and I just feel like that plays a role in how people view us. Like if you're from Ohio, I mean not in Ohio, Kentucky. Kentucky is like 97% white people. So if you hear on the news, if you all you hearing on the news is some Black guy did this and some Black guy did that, and Black people are 3 times more likely to rob your house and shoot up your dog, then you're gonna get a natural fear of Black people, because you don't interact them with it in your communities. You don't talk to them, you don't see them on a daily basis. So all your proof of how Black people act is by the media, and the media is telling you, oh, just having a Black person in the area, you're 3 times more likely to get robbed. That's been happening throughout society, and the news never talks about why those statistics are that way. They don't talk about, or at least they don't talk about enough about the underlying systematic issues that's throughout our society. All they want to shoot out is eye-catching headlines, but as like I said before, that slowly, people use that as evidence to just write off every Black person they see, and I just feel like those wrongs are just not corrected in today's age.
I mean, I don't even know if that's something about today. I think that's just something that's always gone on.
Oh no, I meant like it's going on to this day. That's what I meant. Like you're right. That's something that has gone on. Since Black people been in America, really. Not even just America. In history, truth be told.
Yeah, I mean, it's always gone on. Even before Black people were in America, when there was Africans and European countries were trading with Africans, it described them as savages.
Mm-hmm.
It's going on for about as long as you can think back to. I don't know if it's just, I mean, do you guys think personally, do you think that like racism is something that can ever like be taken out of the country? Like, can we live in a country that's like for example, like in Switzerland, everybody is the same and they treat each other the same. And so their policies under the assumption that everybody is the same. Do you think that America will ever get to a point where black people will be almost the same as white people in a political and economic sense?
I feel like that's a hard answer. I feel like today, no. And for a long time, I think the answer is no. I feel like because there's always gonna be some asshole who's trying to there's always gonna be some populist, right? Someone who's trying to rally the majority against a unified cause. And it's just so easy to pick some unrepresented minority and paint them as the enemy that you must all rally against. That's happened throughout history, and I don't think that's something that's going to go away anytime soon. Because it doesn't just happen in America. It happens throughout the world. Even, unfortunately, even in African countries, it's just more there. It's more religious. It's more religious than anything. But even people who are who like have like native religious backgrounds are like ostracized by like Christians or Muslims. So I just think this radicalization of like a populist group to ostracize easily unrepresented minority is something that's going to happen for a long, long time. And I don't know what's going to change that. That's something that I just don't think I can imagine at this point. I think it's hard to say never. I think you can never say never about anything, but it's going to be something that's super hard to, there's going to be something hard to attain. Because unfortunately, I just feel like with history, the only thing that has brought people together is another enemy. It's when you say, I don't like that guy. Hey, I don't like those guys either. Let's get together and not like this one guy. And I just feel like it's going to be hard to find something that unifies everyone under the same umbrella. And for a long time.
So you talking about aliens now?
Maybe.
That's the only thing I can think of. It sounded like you were going with that.
I mean, because take an example. There's an African country called Sudan. In Sudan, for a while, I think the majority of the country was Muslims, and so other minority religious groups, like I said, the native African religions. I think it was like some Christians. They all wanted to secede from Sudan. So that's why there's a South Sudan now. They broke away, I think 2013 or 2012. But once they broke off, they wasn't a part of Sudan anymore. They're their own country now. They celebrated for like 2-3 years. And then now there's a civil war going on. There's almost a civil war going on in Sudan as we speak, because the groups that once came together, to succeed from Sudan, they're going against each other now. And it all started because I think the president was one religion and the vice president was a second religion. And ultimately, politics started to break down into ethnic polarization. Mm. So I just think so maybe it is going to be aliens. But I just think unless we can find something that unifies everyone under one belief and one cause, it's going to be something that's hard to fix.
Yeah, it would definitely have to be something that would make people think, okay, we're not black or white, we're just all humans.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the next step to, getting some kind of change like that, because now people, it's incredible that people make up these beliefs based on the color of your skin. Like it's not like we're so different from other people, but that's the way that other people perceive it to be, which
Mm-hmm.
is almost, it's crazy for me to imagine, but that might be me talking from my perspective. Like if I was white, raised white, and never seen a black person, they might I might look at myself now and be like, I have no idea what that person's intentions are. And I think part of the issue that we have is that we even refer to each other as like black people or white people or Asian people.
Mm-hmm.
If we just talked
Or,
about each other as people,
or Americans
then
at
I
the very
think that
least.
would matter a bit less. But that's living in a fairy tale right now. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that we go all hold hands and just be happy, because the reality is that some minority groups in America don't have the same chances to be successful as other groups, and the reason why is because there has been long-standing oppression, and that has real implications that passes down from generation to generation. Like I would have loved to have a house passed down to me, but I don't. Like I would have loved to have an acre of land in my name, but I don't. And I recognize also that there's white people who obviously don't have these things either. But you know, I just feel like widespread is just not something that we have. You know, it's not something like I've never heard another person tell me, "Oh, okay, my father's leaving me this house." I've never seen that before. I mean, maybe they might leave you their rent-controlled apartment.
Which is glorious.
Yeah, that's good too. But that's about all you're gonna get over on this way.
Mhm.
But yeah, I just I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Mm-mm.
Hoping for 2,500. maybe hundreds of years from now. Yeah, I don't know. Race is tough. And then even tougher when you get into race and ethnicity. Then you got a whole other can of worms.
Yeah, definitely. The thing is that I think evolution had to happen, that humans was had to evolve to a different being of like, okay, cool. Because if you like, I was thinking about if you take like, we don't ask like what race or ethnicity you are on the like applications, you can still see them by their last name and their first name sometimes too.
Mm-hmm.
Because you guys have the last name Jones, the last name Williams. Somebody has like last name Ramirez, you can see the difference,
Yeah.
the cultural difference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that it has always been like that. Like Quinn, you talked about how we don't, how you don't have generational wealth. That's unfortunately a lot of black people do not have generational wealth, because unfortunately through history, through society, we have been kept down through systematic racism. And it used to, we like to not pretend how bad it used to be, or at least the media or like society in general don't like to pretend it wasn't as bad as it used to be. Like, did you know the only coup in America to be successful was when it was it was in North Carolina when around the 50s. Someone quote me if I'm wrong. I forget the year, but I think it was around the 50s. It is, or the 60s, or the 70s. It is the only coup to be successful in the United States, where a lot of a lot of black people were getting elected into office, and it was considered a mixed state around this time, or at least it was starting to become a mixed state. A bunch of I'm sorry, you know what? No, this was way back when. This is I'm sorry, I'm getting the years wrong.
Are you
Because
talking? I mean, the only coup that I could think of. Well, there's actually that's what I was wondering when you was talking, because I could think of a couple coups that have, it depends what you mean by work. Like you got Bacon's Rebellion with like indentured servants and slaves. And, after that, many of those indentured servants started to get moved into what we now know as like whiteness, right?
mm-hmm.
And then you also have like some slave uprisings as well.
Oh, the Wilmington. I believe it was North. It was like North Carolina, and yeah, it was in the 1900s. It was like the 19. It was like late 1800s or early 1900s. So I was wrong about the year.
You're
But
talking about Wilmington insurrection of 1898.
yes, that.
There you go.
Where it was like I said, biracial office. I think their black people was represented in North Carolina's government. They were starting to be elected more and more over the years. This is back when the Democrats were super racist. They didn't like that, and what they did was that they had like some militia group come run into offices and evict black people. Told them just go away, don't come back. And it got to the point where it escalated into what I would consider a terrorist attack. Terrorism is basically they want to spread fear, and they were spreading some fear. And ultimately, what happened because of that coup attempt, North Carolina just their entire parliament was just white, which is completely white after the coup, and it is considered one of the only successful coups in America, where government officials were evicted by force, and another government was set up in its place. Yeah. And it's the only one that happened on America that I know that happened on American land, where government officials are by gunpoint told to get out of office, and no one does a thing.
Yeah. To add a little more context, during the time in North Carolina, there was a lot of black and white political figures elected into office who were known as fusionists, and pretty much they were fighting towards, equality. And groups of white supremacists and the Democrats saw it as a threat, and so they started like a little propaganda campaign. They organized, and so they armed themselves, and then they ran at the government officials and forcibly made them leave office.
Mm-hmm.
And it even said on the article that I read that 60 to 300 people were killed during the coup.
Mm-hmm.
So it was not a bloodless uprising. It was not a situation where people were asked to leave and they just did it. It actually resulted in the death of people. And the interesting thing about that is, like, when you think about black uprisings throughout history, and you can even look to what happened this summer, if you want to look at more recent things. Whenever there's some type of uprising or unrest in a black community, it's quickly stomped out. Like, it's not allowed to fester. Like, you could think back to the Black Panther movements, when strategically leaders of the Black Panther movement were wiped out. You could think back to leaders of the civil rights. Strategically, they were wiped out. You can look at Black Lives Matter. What happened? When the riot started, immediately you saw people with riot shields. You saw people with the rubber bullets. And you might think, oh, well, some people were rioting, but they actually had police stationed out there before the riots broke out. And if the cops were held accountable when it happened, then you would have never had all of that unrest. So I think it's funny that, one of, like you mentioned, one of the most successful coups in American history happens to be won by white supremacy. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that has something to do with the fact that throughout history, um, like political figures have not like outright dispelled like white supremacist groups. And you even seen it with our President Trump. And he's telling the Proud Boys to stand back and stand by. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's gotten ridiculous to this point.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I just feel like the whole racism die out or believing that Biden being elected is going to change things surrounding race is a little bit too optimistic because
Mm-hmm.
all of is this is stuff that people are taught. This is stuff that people are raised on. We talked about how children like us, like black children, are constantly bombarded with with a certain media attention that makes us dislike our own skin. Well, you have some white people who are growing up in households and with newspaper ads and other things that tell them that they're in danger, their way of life is in danger, and so they turn to this white supremacy out of
Mm-hmm.
fear and wanting to keep the status quo alive. So this it's not gonna happen anytime soon. Like I think humans will die before we actually have full equality. Like I really think that. I don't think it's
Yeah.
anything that's gonna be solved anytime soon. And it's sad to say, but it's just that these beliefs are just too deep rooted. The only way that you're gonna have any kind of change like that is if people died. But people have babies, they teach their babies the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yep.
don't see that changing anytime soon.
Right. That's the whole reason why the Confederacy, even though they got stomped out over 100 years ago, um, their ideals are still alive and well because, like you said, white supremacy wasn't stomped out as much as it should have been.
Yeah.
They were still allowed to hold on to their beliefs. They was able to still teach how awesome um how awesome their Confederate soldiers were, and they're still argue to this day that it was just about states' rights. But then when you ask them the states' rights to do what, then that's when it's conversation over. I just think it's something that's always gonna be racism is taught, and unfortunately, it's always gonna be taught because it's gonna be taught by racists. Um, I, I just like I said, I don't know what the future entails because I think it's just it's hard for me to imagine what's gonna be in the future. Like I would like to believe there's gonna be like interstellar travel, other planetary adventures like hundreds of years into the future, and if we get that far anyway. um, but it's I think there is always going to be some type of there's always going to be some type of racism going on, some type of ethnic polarization. Who's going to be the target? That might change. That might change. It might be the robots. Like we figure out how to do artificial intelligence, and then we create a bunch of intelligent robots, and then the robots want rights. That's the only thing I can think of. But like I said, there's always going to be some type of ethnical polarization. It's just who's getting it might change. Who's on the receiving end? And right now, like I said, it's just too dang easy to go like what's the poorest group in America who really can't it's just like who's at the bottom of America, because I honestly feel like it's more of a I feel like it's the more important fight is the difference between classes. It's just unfortunately, guess who has the most wealth in America? And they're gonna use. Did you say Trump? That nigga ain't got no money.
No. Trump definitely got money.
Oh, yeah, he got money, but like that, my boy's in debt. I think he has more debt than cash, but you know, when you own stuff, that counts. But I think paper money, I think he has more debt than than like physical cash.
Yeah, well, I think the aim for a lot of people, once you make a certain amount of money, is to try and have a lot of assets rather than having a lot of cash on hand. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's how you hide the cash, right? That's how you get out paying taxes. But
that's true. The more properties you have, the more, you know, you can use those properties to get some tax breaks. That's why Trump only pays $750, but I pay over $750 every single check. I mean, I'm not mad about it. I'm just saying. It's like crazy that I'm paying more than our president in taxes every single check. Like, come on. There was not enough outrage about that. That's what. See, this is what get me tight about these people who support Trump. Like, there's not enough outrage about him paying $750 in tax. I get it. People say, you know, oh, a lot of wealthy people don't really pay taxes like that. Well, I don't care. I'm talking about Trump right now. And it's pretty appalling that your own president is not paying these taxes. Like, it's ridiculous.
Crazy.
Like, how you expecting people to accurately report on their income tax and our president not even doing it? Like, come on, man. Come on. You could never convince me that there's a reason for somebody who's poor to pay more taxes than somebody who's a millionaire. That don't make sense to me. And you could never make a convincing argument about it for me. Because there's some people who pay taxes, and those taxes take away money that they need to eat.
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous, yo. I can't even.
Throughout history, it's always been like, what's the solution? We have the money, tax the poor. Even like a Roman times, there was like, respect someone's money, take away from the citizens. And just like, huh? Or like the French Revolution, like being in that castle, and everyone was like, let's get them, guillotine.
Exactly like you just said. This is something that has always happened throughout history. And it's crazy. Like, even like in, you know, during the rule of kings and queens, guess who most of the financial burdens fall upon? The working class, the poor, the broke, the farmers, towing the lands, growing the bread. They got the heaviest of taxes despite basically running the country. And it's happening to this day. And it's just interesting to see no one learn from history. It's weird. Like everything that happens today, you can easily go and say, this happened this year or this decade or this century. Nothing that happens on the news today is nothing new. It is nothing new. It is the same tactics being used by people with the same ideology, and it seems to always work. And it's just strange to see that, like how people just don't understand, you know, the tactics that a few people would use to exploit them.
Well, you know, part of it, I think, is like fear mongering. Like, think about how well-oiled capitalism is in America. Like, if I go right now and I'm on the news talking about, oh, we should give out a check to everybody who's food insecure in America so that they can afford food. Mm-hmm. I might be called a socialist or a communist because I want to get people who can't afford food.
True.
That's how crazy people have become over capitalism. That it's like Zeke, you know this. We go to Baruch. People are so crazy about their money. Like it's brutal. Like, God forbid that you want to relax a day and not worry about getting the next big internship at JP Morgan Chase or, so and so. Like, it's very cutthroat in society. And people really don't like the idea of people getting stuff provided for them. But in reality, like we just talked about, all they're getting back is their tax money. Like that $2,000 that people were calling, oh, that's communism, you can't do that. Bro, that's our money. Like, they're just like, yo, let's give them back a fraction of their money. and then I guess, McConnell was like, nah, we're not doing that. So, so now we got stuck with our 600. But, yo, the belief in capitalism is nuts. And the craziest part about it is, it seems like the people who hate socialism don't really even know what socialism really is.
They don't.
Because if you ask them questions about it, they're just like, oh, you just want to, give people money for not doing nothing. Like, it's like, no, that's not how it works. That's not even how communism works. Like,
I mean, communism I would say communism is actually extreme socialism anyways, though.
I mean, I could see that, but I feel like socialism, you can kind of, I feel like socialism is more easily implemented into a government and political system, whereas communism, you need a complete overhaul of your political systems and your economic systems for trade.
Okay, I actually think when people talk about communism, quote unquote, I don't think communism can even communism cannot function as a government, because communism isn't government. Communism is supposed to be the people control the means of everything in society. There's no ruling class. There is no class system. It's just everyone does their part and get money accordingly. But I feel like that cannot happen as a system, because it's okay, everyone does what they need in society. Then you're going to need a couple people who's going to control the funds for, one industry or the next. And then you're going to have to collect funds for government, for roads, infrastructure, so on and so forth. And I feel like in trying to fix these issues that's going to come up with trying to implement communism, you're going to inherently create a government. I mean, you're going to have people to control the money. You're going to have people who rally the money, and then you're going to have people who decide what's best done with the funds that's collected. Congratulations, you just created a government. So I don't think communism can function, but it's just weird how you just throw out the name communism and people is just quick to shut down the conversation then and there.
Yeah.
And I think that's, once again, that's something that's I don't know if that's due to the educational system or just how America is in a nutshell, but it's just strange how people are willing, like you said, it is fear mongering. They hear communism, they hear socialism, and even if it's not to be completely beneficial to them, they're quick to shut it down.
Yeah, that's the craziest thing, is that I'm on Facebook and there's working class white people telling me that they don't want the $2,000 check. I'm like, what are y'all doing? I'm not, I'm looking forward to the check, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm looking forward to the check, because I want to invest in the market. But there's more pressing matters. Some people need the check because they can't work. Some people need the check because they can't afford food. Some people need the check for a whole host of other things that, to be honest, at the end of the day, I don't care what you need the check for. as long as there's people out there who really depend on the money, it should go through. Like there's enough people struggling, there's enough small businesses struggling in America that we should have the $2,000 check. And honestly, the government was let off easy, right? Because many other governments around the world were giving their citizens much more money. And for a long time, Americans shut up about it, wasn't going hard about actually getting stimulus checks, which again ties into the whole I don't want to be seen as getting a handout. It's like this whole mentality that the government has fostered around the people, which self-serves the government because it's like, good, y'all don't want no money? Great.
Right.
So it's like okay with them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's people starving, people who can't afford to live right now, people who can't work. And this just is nuts to me. Like we look like we could be heading towards another shutdown. People should have got their money. That's the bottom line. People should have got that money. It's our money. We pay taxes. Trump don't pay taxes. Let me see McConnell's tax return. He probably not paying taxes either. So the way I see it, Trump only pays $750 in taxes. At least give us Trump money. At least. How we getting less than what he paying in taxes and he not paying nothing, man? It's crazy to me. I can't. The economy in this country is absurd.
And I think it's just because we keep moving the goalposts, truth be told. Like people call Biden, socialists was thrown at him and Kamala throughout their presidential campaign. But policy-wise, Biden is actually a little bit right-leaning. It's just that they're willing to throw buzzwords and fair words to whoever their opponent is, and then the goalpost just eventually gets moved.
Yeah.
Just further down the line, and it's just I don't know how that needs to be fixed. I think we just need
well, it's like it's a system thing, really, because like you can even think back to like President Obama.
Mm-hmm.
Like people, like we're calling these people Democrats and liberals when actually, if you look at their policies, they tend to not be that liberal. Like Bernie Sanders was liberal, but most of the Democrats that you see actually running for office are not liberal Democrats. And part of the reason why is because the ideas that a liberal would support scare like half of America. So like once you start saying like, oh, college should be free, you turn off half the population. So then you would have to count on that other half to help you out. So you got to toe that line. So all the Democrats coming out they're like centrists, really. If you think of like centrists, that's who Democrats are right now. And then you might have a couple who you might be like, oh, okay, they're a little bit liberal. Because when you're liberal, you want to think a little bit. You want to advocate for some type of not like structural change because that would be radical, but you want to advocate for like distribution of equity, and they don't do that at all.
They want to keep it all at the top.
What's up, Darius?
I said they want to keep it all at the top. There's no.
It's not only that they want to, they doing it. They doing it.
Cool. On that note, I guess we could time to end. We've been doing like an hour, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right,
cool.
Zeke.
All right, cool. So the last question is, what would you guys name your origin stories?
Love yourself.
Damn, my mom right now. I'm gonna name mine supporting cast. Because all my family members, friends, they're the supporting cast behind me that lets me shine.
Cool.
And then mine's is that I think for a long time, like I said, for a long time, I guess I felt like I was someone with an identity that kind of didn't vibe with it. It took me a long time to believe the words that my grandmother would tell me all the time. I would come home crying, which is, Black is beautiful. It just took me a long time to take to heart what she said. And it's still something I guess I am still, it is still something to this day that I'm going through. So,
You know what, Zeke? You need like a meme button. Like you need the Deontay Wilder to this day.
This day. All right, thank you for coming.
All right, bro.
No problem, man.
No problem. I'll catch you later.
Got you.
That brings another episode of the Let's Get Podcast to a close. I'd like to thank Darius and Quinn for being guests on the podcast. For next week, the last episode, my mother will be making a return to the podcast. I hope you tune in next day, and I hope to see you there.